I've got one I can show. Let me share. Okay, so thanks to Sarah for helping make this look much nicer than it did before. And Ariel and Richard for helping figure out how to do all this stuff, and always Stephen for helping me figure out how to do everything. So this is related to totals. One thing that's come up a lot recently has been users getting confused by like what value is being shown in the total row for calculations. Because we don't really do anything explicitly for that row for calcs. Is just like whatever happens to show up is going to be displayed. So in the case of like a constant calculation, then you get that value. And if it's has a measure as an input, you see something related to the measure, but sometimes it's just nonsense. So anyways, that's been confusing to people. So we wanted to do something to make that a little nicer. So we've been working on having some like controls for the totals down here. So like here are some examples of different types of calculations where like the thing that you display on the bottom might vary depending on the kind. So like for this one, we're just like concatenating the measure with the dimension to show like, whatever, some kind of string. So for this one, you probably just don't want to show anything. So now we have this like nice total calculation menu option here. So you can choose column formula, just kind of does whatever is the pre-existing behavior. Since this is a string, you can choose the min or the max or just show nothing. So like this is an example where you probably just don't want to show anything. So we have like none. For rank, the default, like what it shows currently for rank is just 1 because of the way the calc goes. So like for this one, like I don't know what you'd want to show, but like you can choose. So like maybe the max to see like how many values are in there. This is another example where we just have like some number, and so the default would have just been, well, for this one, the default would have been null. So like we just choose like average or whatever. So for calcs, you can kind of like, depending on the, field type, choose what type of aggregation you want to do on it. And then this actually just like works more generally. So like for a dimension, like right now for totals, like because we're grouping on them and it, doesn't necessarily make sense to put a number in the total. Like we don't have totals for them. So now like for dimensions, you can see we have these options where like we'll default to showing nothing, which is what we do now. But you can also choose like some other aggregation on them. So like, I don't know what you want for age, like just to sum it up or something. So you'll see that there. So like you're also able to sum over dimensions in the same way you can for calcs. And then for measures, you can see there's this like additional option. So like the default is to do what we do currently in our total system, which is just the like native aggregation because of the grouping sets for the definition of the measure. But if like for some reason that's not what you want, you can choose like one of the other types too. So like I don't know, you want like the max value or something. Um, you can change that too and just have that here. And then actually, if any of the calcs use this as an input, they would also get updated. Um, so there's that. There's still some work to be done to like finish it up. I can show you subtotals. Like there's an issue here with sorting. So it like kind of works, but the sorting's a little messed up. But like the subtotal should be below it, but like it should in theory also work for subtotals to show whatever you've chosen. I just gotta flip these guys. Same thing like for pivots. And again, there's some issues to work out there. But previously, if we made this pivot, like this is what would show up for the running total. It'd be 0 just because it's partitioned there. But that's probably not what you want. So like for this one, like probably what you want is whatever, I guess max is what you want if it's a running total. And then that'll show you like the, full total from the end. You can also, again, add the total onto the dimension as well, or change this one if you want to. It's not like totally done yet. There's still some work to be done for promotion and for getting subtotals and sorted right. And I'm sure a million edge cases too. But just to show you, since I know it's come up a bunch recently, and at least we can have something to kind of point to customers that it's coming soon, to fix that pain point.
So cool.
Awesome. That's ridiculous.
Not to don't take this as talking bad about a competitor on the call, or we could cut this. But when we were all at Looker, we had this as an issue, and it just sat there for like 5 years, and we were all like, meh, guess we're just not going to fix that, and it's going to be like mildly cruddy forever. And here we just are fixing it. Hooray!
Yeah. I mean, I think there's some other really interesting UX decisions we could make here too. Like a really simple example to call back my shout at Sav is sort of like, why doesn't my dimension sum up? Has come up. It comes up every single time with a new user. Is like there's no difference between going to a fact table and hitting a dimension and going to a fact table and magically turning that to a measure, other than like if you know SQL, that makes sense. And for many people, that does not make any sense at all. The idea that like when you turn on totals, we can flip on the sum of the column for dimensions is madness. Like that is so good because you can just sidestep the complete conversation on it. Like then it gets into the nuance of like, do you actually want that or not? But it is completely easy to understand like a sum of a dimension. And if you've got a button to turn it off, completely changes like the way the system works. So like it's amazing the stuff that this is going to unlock for people.
I have a quick question. It might be a little too in the weeds, but Kathy, curious, does this issue additional queries? I think like with our old structure of totals, it would basically use grouping sets to all still go through one. But curious with the different operations, if we were able to do that or have to do some stuff differently.
Nope, no additional queries. It's just doing like an extra layer on top of the totals with a window.
That's awesome.